Right, my people, good afternoon. Actually, it's the morning. We are back with another episode of Live and Laugh. Busy morning, 4 business mentees boxed off. We have an announcement coming soon. I'm going to give that a bit of time. We've got a big announcement. Obviously, Ed behind the camera will do a madness on the video and the announcement. But yeah, obviously, that's something that we're now progressing towards. But today, plan of action, we're going to go see Joe. We are meeting up with the coach for the second time during this prep. We did a video with him earlier on in prep, episode 4 or 5, whatever. And we're going to go see him again today, just to check in with him. It's deload week. Man's fucked, so I'm actually enjoying this deload week. It's quite refreshing. I've actually watched a couple of movies, which I never do. I might even play some Xbox. Who fucking knows? But yeah, obviously this morning's been heavily business mentee based, and then I'm just going to make some food now, and then we're going to head over to Joe, and we'll see what he says. To be fair, obviously we are 5.5 weeks out, so not long, 38 days. So yeah, it's crunch time now. Every day counts. I've pretty much got everything organised now. So show day accommodations booked. Obviously Ed's booked. So now it's just about getting the work done, really. You know, getting the work done, managing my stress and my time around the elements of prep. And I think that's something that I'm really going to have to focus on these next sort of 35, 40 days is really making sure that my time management is on point, because a lot of times when you're during prep, right, and when you're tired, you're fatigued, you can let things overwhelm you and get on top of you. I'm not letting that happen this time. I'm making sure that everything's structured, making sure that everything is in a spot where I know what I'm doing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you know. I don't personally like that approach, but I know it's necessary. Like, I fucking hate being organised. Let me be the first person to tell you. I fucking hate it. Ed's nodding because he knows. I fucking hate being organised. I genuinely hate it, right? I don't know how I run a business, but I hate it. So the fact that I've said that on camera pains me, but I know it's going to have to be necessary. So that's the key for the next sort of 35 to 40 days. Making sure organisation, taking stress away, and then just getting the job done. Because I know for me, I'm going to work a lot better, a lot more efficient within that environment. But for now, we are going to make some food, and then we are going to travel over to see Joe. We're going to land there about 2:30. So I think I might have a bit of time to go for a little bit of walking. But yeah, we'll catch you in a bit. Yeah. As you can see, guys, I've started weighing out my total amount of salt for the day, purely because I've been suffering from electrolyte imbalances where there's been huge spikes in my weight and obviously huge spikes in inflammation. And obviously I spoke to Joe about it last week, and he basically said, and this is why Joe's a fucking genius, like the second I said what I said and the second I showed him the video, a lot of coaches in his position, right, would generally have gone, right, what have you done with your diet? Have you cheated, etc., etc. He didn't do any of that. He was like, this is an electrolyte imbalance. This is what we need to do. We need to make sure we're tracking our salt, 12 grams a day, 4 to 5 litres of water. And within 12 hours, it got fixed. And I know I've been in positions before where I've had issues with my inflammation, and I've had my coach say to me, you've cheated on your diet, haven't you? That's the explanation. I've had that. I was in that situation in 2020, right? So I just want to shout out to Joe, man. The guy's a fucking genius. Like, I sent him a message. He's just come back from Thailand. I sent him a message. I was like, genuinely appreciate you being on my corner, because I know a lot of coaches would have been scratching their heads going, they fucking cheated on the diet or something, when within the space of 12 hours, all the fucking water and inflammation had dropped off my physique and I looked sharp as fuck. So yeah, he's a genius, man. Shout out to Joe. Your favourite part-time bodybuilder has his mill prep bag ready to fucking go. Alright, I think that's everything. I'll probably forget something and be halfway across to Joe and realise I forgot something, but let's go. We'll see you in the car. The new car, shit, we need to explain that situation. This one's leaking. This will be the first top I've got to where I've got a cap on. I don't wear a cap. Hi guys. Roadman Steve is here.
You upgraded the Jaguar badge, bro.
Right, listen, bro. So, guys, let me tell you now. Obviously, the last time you saw me, we were in the photo shoot video. And basically, 12 hours after that filming had been finished, the car got stolen. And yeah, don't know where it is. I've still got both sets of keys. We're in talks with the insurance to get a valuation for the car. So yeah, subscribe to make sure you find out what car I get next, because it's going to be an upgrade. I'm not going to say anything more than that. So yeah, basically we're driving around an Astra, courtesy car from Enterprise. Skirt. Fuck's sake.
Handling it like a Porsche though, bro.
Oh mate, this is a 911 really, so... No thank you. No milk. Too many calories. Thank you very much, darling. This is one for sir.
Cheers.
You, sir. Thank you, darling. One for Stephen Physique.
Very
Cheers.
Good.
Yes, my people. Fuck me, I need a piss. Oh God, I need a piss. Right, we're at Joe's house. I need a piss really, really badly. I've drinking all this water. Drank all this water and I haven't had a piss, so you can imagine that's about 1.5 litres plus a coffee. Yeah, man needs a piss. He needs a little winky twinky. But yeah, we're gonna have a look at. We're gonna obviously see Joe, say hello. Obviously see the dogs. You've got a lot of dogs, lots of dogs. I think it's like 5 dogs, might be 6 dogs, maybe 5, definitely 5. But yeah, gonna introduce you to all of them. I forgot their names. But yes, we are here. Hello, my man.
Good.
How are you doing?
I didn't know we were fucking filming today.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I actually didn't let him know. Sorry. By the way, we're filming today. Thank you. Yeah, so I'm managing the water, so obviously I've got, so what I'm doing is I'm doing either 2 times by 2 litres with a monster with 2 coffees, which is 5 litres, and then a couple cans of fizzy pop, which is about 5.5 litres. Yeah. Or I'm doing 3 lots of 1.5 litres, plus the coffee, plus the monsters, which is about 5.5 litres again. So yeah.
If you had one of them Strom jugs, you could do that. Like,
to be fair, I literally only just recently put an order through with Strom. This is something that people need to understand. Like, when it comes to this sort of phase now, me being with you for the last 18 months, this is where it matters. Yeah. Because you've got everything.
Yeah, we already know.
All that data.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and that's why coaches have to be obsessed with collecting data, I think. Because you're not just roll sort of check-in to check-in.
Yeah.
Looking like this week, it's like having those real nuanced inputs count.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when you need to look past the objectiveness of the physique sometimes.
Yeah.
And take into and really contextualize.
Yeah.
The look. Because it's easy for someone to go, oh, what's happened here then? Yeah. Very easy. It's cop out, isn't it? You know? So.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, mate. The situation with that was I was flabbergasted. Yeah. Genuinely flabbergasted when he said that. I was like, what the fuck are you on about?
Well, I should have understand that.
Mate, whilst I was doing cardio, I was like, you fucking cheeky cunt. I was like, you're a fucking cheeky bastard. I was like, you got a fucking set of bollocks on you, kid. I was like, bro, honestly, no one knows how close I was to just saying, right, fuck off. Because that was like, obviously, during that prep as well, because of how hard we were pushing things and because I had like 1 deload over like the space of like 9 months. Mate, the amount of mental breakdowns I had was crazy. Yeah, this has been... deload in 9 months. Yeah, it's crazy, man. I wish I was exaggerating. Don't get me wrong, we had like cheat meals in there.
But that's worse for someone like you. Yeah. Like what, flushing like...
It's going to come...
Electrolytes like crazy.
Then you're going to, obviously, the electrolyte band's going to keep fluctuating, yeah? Well, I need that stability.
Yeah, you'll have a massive influx of sodium. Yeah. You won't drink as much fluid.
And then you're basically spending 2 days just
the rest of the week, just getting that fluid back off.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, well, what the fuck's the point?
And then you just got to eat less on those days for all the calories that you over.
There we go.
On the off plan now.
There you go.
Energy balance counts at the end of the day.
Of course. It's all about being a calorie deficit, bro. Yeah. Sustained calorie deficit. It's what I don't understand about prep. Like, simplify the process. Yeah. Prep is being in a sustained calorie deficit.
Fucking hell.
You can see the detail, man. That's obviously when everything's stretched out.
Yeah, see, that's tight, bro. Yeah, that's the swallow.
Yeah?
Yeah. Very different look in the light, isn't it? Yeah, you look way drier. Probably a combination of the light and the fact that you're getting dry.
It's much easier to transition between poses on here.
Nice. Top line looks great. You're one of them wacky physiques that looks full when they're flat.
I'll take it.
See, when you hit that bang, glute lines. Yeah, man, that looks sick.
So this is my weak pose.
What?
This one's my weak side. But I'm happy with that because the first one that we turn into is the one. You see how I can't quite get that same separation than the obliques. I'm not too sure why. Maybe I'm just more comfortable that side and got more neuromuscular connection.
Do you reckon you've just ran that other side more?
Maybe, yeah. I think there's definitely a more developed neurological pathway. 100%. I must sound like you, Joe.
You do words like neurological now.
Mate, honestly, sometimes I do check-ins, I'm like, fucking hell, that sounds like Joe. I was like, fucking, I get like an out-of-body experience, I'm like, that's...
Yeah, the midsection is way drier now. That's a very long thing. Those glutes have boxed off so much more since you've been here, that's ridiculous.
God, I'm sweating like mad though. Absolutely fucking
Yeah,
dripping.
there's the difference in such a small period of time. Yeah, nice. So balanced there.
I remember something that's forever stick with me. One of the first things you said, one area, back,
Yeah.
back, back, back. And there was sometimes, honestly to God, sometimes I was doing these 16-week black specialisation blocks and I was like, fuck me, is this really going to be worth it?
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's worth it.
Yeah, now you're like,
Oh boy, it's worth it.
that.
And then when someone comes to me and goes, yo bro, what have you been doing with your legs for the past 16 weeks?
Nothing.
Ain't about the last 16 weeks, bro.
Yeah.
It's about the last fucking 9 months before that where I was hammering them 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah, we ran some fucking savage blocks.
Oh.
A lot of
Oh
specialisation.
mate.
Yeah.
And do you know what the thing is? People got the fucking balls and they've got the, what's the word? The cheek to go, why'd you train like that?
Yeah.
Have more mental progress than you, fuck off.
Speaks for itself.
Here's what it is, mate.
A lot of lat specialisation we did.
Oh, massive. But
Yeah.
then again, bro, I really enjoyed
Yeah.
working that way.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Well, it worked. Thing is, the amount of like, for someone of your size and strength, the amount of like work you'd have to do to just like systemically grow, too much. We have to do sort of like 1 or 2 things at a time.
Yeah.
Really.
Trying to stimulate a lot of muscles in one go.
Yeah.
Because we know that there is no way that the way we program, there's no way that I'm getting past 5-6 weeks of training.
Yeah.
I just hit a brick wall.
Such a nice
Yeah,
shot.
my arms are very flat there. Very flat, which is bonkers to the camera. But yeah, sorry, I hate to say it. You'll see, show them what I mean.
Yeah, just wait.
Because do you know what I think, genuinely, right? The time that we're going to bring the most complete look will be show day.
Oh yeah. And it
Because
should.
I don't give a fuck, mate. I'm not going to be one of these Instagram warriors. I don't give a shit about any other time apart from when I'm on show day. Do not give a fuck, mate. Alright?
Yeah, it's senseless to sort of
Man, I don't give a fuck.
get full. I'm gonna fill up now and then I'm gonna let's flatten it back off and it's like why don't we just sort of get lean and then peak for the show? You know what I mean?
It's not going to be enough space. Do you want enough space? There we go. So, we've checked in. My G, you happy? Yeah, you happy? Happy? Yeah, happy. So, we checked in with Joe. You happy?
Yeah, very happy.
Honest reflections?
Yeah, yeah. No, do you know what the best thing is? And I think I said this last time you came down actually. It was like, you look in person just like you do on your check-in shots, so it makes the coaching process so easy. I had a scenario last year with 2 clients, they looked significantly different in person than they did in their check-in shots. They both were like way further ahead in person, so I had to like project it forward on all their check-ins, and it does get hard, like as a coach that's really anal about conditioning, it would have been easy to overcook them. So we were doing really frequent visits. But anyway, in your case, it's relatively simple for the fact that you do look exactly like you look on the check-in shot. So it's really easy from my perspective to have that accuracy of analysis when we are checking in, you know.
So in terms of plans for the next one, we're 5.5 weeks out from the first one, 3.5 weeks out from the third one. So we haven't really discussed this. So if you want to discuss it now in terms of rough
yeah. So I mean, we've got that phase periodization all on your coaching sheets, which stands as you're currently in the deload here, and then we have one more accumulation mesocycle. So volume will slowly be titrating up through that meso. Although volume doesn't titrate a whole lot at this point of prep, they're quite like, if you remember in your off season, the accumulation of training volume would be much higher.
Yeah.
Whereas
much more aggressive.
Yeah, and as you get closer to a show, like your minimum effective volumes are higher, but your maximum recoverable volumes are lower.
Yeah.
So you kind of end up squeezing these two, where we're just kind of training at these moderately high to eventually high volumes. So we'll get through that training mesocycle there. Excuse the sound of this dog who's decided to eat his metal bowl. So we're getting through that last accumulation block of training where training volume will titrate, proximity to failure will decrease, and there'll be some sort of relevant fatigue accumulation through that. As you get leaner, calories only get lower, expenditure only gets harder. But we kind of get that done now so that we have that fatigue wash-off point at the end, where there'll be a taper of training volume, there'll be a taper in training load, there'll be a taper in training intensity into the show, and that will all fall in line with when we fat load, carbohydrate load, manipulate electrolytes, whatever we need to do at that point to get you into stage perfectly presentable physique at that point. You know? And then between the 2 shows, it will generally just be a case of fatigue management and maintenance. Okay. So the inputs will be maintenance, kind of training at maintenance volume, living at maintenance calories.
So realistically, given that information, there's probably only 3 weeks worth of proper digging there?
Yeah.
4 weeks?
Yeah, maybe 4 weeks of digging,
Yeah. We've been in the dieting phase since November, don't forget.
But I have that with every client where people will say like...
But then the progress has slowed as well, like, because we got a lot of it off, didn't we?
Yeah, that's an important point to note. So it's just like the way I like to prep clients in general is like to be really aggressive on the front end.
When you've got energy high.
Yeah, exactly. Whilst your appetite's low and like you're motivated, you're excited to get into prep, like you might as well rip it all off then. Yeah. When you start to get to these last little vestiges of body fat, you can start to move at like a rate of loss of like 0.25% a week, and it's very manageable.
Yes.
You know, you don't want to be really digging yourself hard those last few weeks of prep and turning up looking tired.
That's the worst thing you can do, especially given obviously our circumstances, my passport situation. Like we have the 2 shows and that's it.
But that is something as a coach that you deal with, and something as an athlete that can be sort of psychologically more difficult as well when people are saying to you, man, don't you think you're a bit lean for October? Don't you think you're a bit lean? You know, I hear this with every client, but then they happen to turn up ready on the day and not early. I think people's perspective of condition can be really skewed. I think this show season's shown that. You know, I've been to basically every show this season, and like, I don't want this to sound sort of like deprecating anybody, but the conditioning is not really up to standard.
And one thing I wanted to obviously discuss, a lot of people, right, we're getting more credit for it, but this whole reps and reserve accumulation training model, I know the importance. Ed behind the camera knows the importance. You know the importance. Why is it more optimal to train proximity to failure, to train with an increased accumulation over a sustained period of time and then take a deload?
Man, so big question that literally books have been written on.
Yeah.
Like people like my friends at Renaissance Periodization, if anybody's interested, like Dr. Mike and Jared, they've written books on...
And Physique to Match.
Jared, Mike, Charlie, they're all incredibly smart guys, and if we're going to take an evidence-based approach to training for hypertrophy, or just to use another term, sort of like just training for bodybuilding outcomes, you know, driving protein accretion up, pushing up muscle protein synthesis, and but whatever way you want to determine it, there's certain inputs that are going to be essential. So a certain proximity to failure, you have to train at. You have to train hard enough to elicit a sufficient adaptive response, and plenty of research has been done on this. And this is going to be occurring somewhere around 4 reps in reserve. As you get closer to failure, you will activate more higher threshold motor units. So, like, if we were going to like encapsulate in a single sentence, like, sure, you will grow more muscle. It will be more anabolic to train to failure. Right,
but so it's the over a period of time. Isn't
so
it?
does that necessarily mean we should take every set to failure? If training intensity was the only variable responsible for hypertrophy, then yes. But also we know that there's a logarithmic relationship between training volume and hypertrophy. So there's a dose-response relationship. There's an inverted U response to volume and hypertrophy. So the more volume that you train at, the more you will grow. That's been very clearly demonstrated. But where I say inverted U,
It will come down eventually.
Yeah, eventually
Yeah.
you'll hit this maximum recoverable volume, to borrow one of RP's terms, and then you'll go past that and you'll head into functional overreaching, and then you'll head into overtraining. Now, if we take every set to failure, we limit the amount of volume that we can do. You know, you can't perform as much volume. If you train to failure, your fatigue will be too high. Conversely, I'm also not saying that we should train at a really distant proximity to failure and just do a ton of volume. I think a sufficiency of all of the relevant inputs when it comes to creating as much mechanical tension and as much metabolite accumulation as possible. And this can be over a mesocycle. It's probably a good idea to start with something that's just like minimally effective, like to get a good response when you're pretty fresh. So, you know, your volume might be on the lower end there, and your proximity to failure may be on the more distant end, because you can get a good robust response from that, and not absolutely wipe yourself out on the first week. And then we know how progressive overload works. You're going to need to do more to elicit new and novel adaptations. So then next week maybe it's a good idea to do a little bit more volume, or add a little bit more load, or add a rep, or decrease your proximity to failure. You've got all these options.
Yeah, there's so many avenues.
And it's probably a good idea to do a little bit of all of them.
Yeah, I say that as well.
It's certainly less injurious to add a set than it would be to put a big load of weight. Maybe if you added a set and put a small amount of load on, would be much more manageable to create the same amount of net additional mechanical tension as would be putting like a 20 kilo plate on and potentially blowing your knees out on a hack. Ryan Kirkham. So yeah, that's basically, and over the course of a mesocycle you can slowly accumulate these as needed, and it may get to it will definitely get to a point where you're not able to accumulate those inputs further, and then you would deload and go all over.
I think it's very important, obviously, one, bio-individuality comes into play, and two, as well, the least amount, touching upon the point where you said about the least amount of stimulus for the maximum amount of gain, that allows for greater runway as well.
Yeah. So more accumulation there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned like biological individuality, like the magnitude to which that exists is unbelievable.
It's so
when it comes to training volume, intensity, drugs, how you partition nutrients, how you sleep, gene expression in general, the various hormonal cascades. There's a brilliant seminar that was at Body Power some years ago from Dr. Scott Stevenson. It was called Why You Don't Look Like a Pro.
Yeah.
It was all about biological individuality. And the span is ridiculous. So, you know, looking at a routine is like push-pull legs, and you're going to do a top set, back off set for these 5 exercises. So it's like 2 sets for every man, woman and child to failure. It's like, it may be great for this person. It may be terrible for this person. It may be the fact that their chest volume really is like they get a lovely adaptive response at that 8 sets a week or whatever, but their quads, it's way too much. Or for their lats, it's miles away from their recoverable volume. You know, so we need to track these things. So I will, rather than write like pieces of programming as set pieces for clients, I'll say, you know, if it's a brand new client, we're going to work to these volume analyze this week, and then I want you to give me some feedback on.
Yeah, you're all about that initial phase of that data collection.
Yeah. And we'll program week for week. You know, if you tell me sort of what was sore and how long for, and how was your pump on these movements, you know, because we're trying to track metabolite accumulation, and you know, okay, well, we had sort of overlapping soreness in the quads from those 4 sets of hack squats. So we're not going to move those up this week. In fact, we'll maybe go 3, but he didn't really get much of a stimulus from those 4 sets of lateral raises. So maybe we'll move that to 5 this week and decrease the proximity to failure. Looking at the specificity of the individual to get the greatest outcome is important. As a coach, I think these should just be basic requirements of a coach to have that level of analytic assessment of a client's data. But then that also means that coaches can't have 200 clients anymore.
It's impossible.
Yeah.
I cap at 65.
Yeah.
And you're even less.
Yeah, I'm 60.
Wow.
So not a whole lot less, but it takes me all day to do 10 check-ins.
And I know I'm nowhere near as in depth as you.
Yeah.
But I'm in depth enough for me to go, right, 65 is my limit.
But I say all of this, and I don't want that to be a kind of show-off piece. It's more so reflective of the clients that I work with. If you only work with Gen Pop, it's probably a good idea just to set people somewhere in that 8 to 12 sets of body part per week, and they'll be fine because they're not seeking optimality. But my clients come to me and they pay an escalated fee with the expectation that I am going to provide them with, right, we are going to get 2 or as close to 100% of outcome, So I need to work for that,
Yeah, 100%. It takes planning, it takes a lot of detail, a lot of analysis, and that's time at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And that's time that only gets stretched. To quote Molly May, we all only have 24 hours in a day, so...
I think one thing I wanted to talk about was deloading. So, worth mentioning, so... there's not a whole lot to say, because if you follow the kind of model that I described there, which would... as a basic tenet, just be as progressive as possible constantly. I can't see a scenario where you would be driving progressive tension efficiently and be able to do that for longer than 8 weeks. Normally a mesocycle for me, for a client, would be 4 weeks, 5 weeks, maybe 6, very rarely. I think if you're training longer than 8 weeks in a progressive mesocycle design,
you're not training hard enough.
You're probably chronically under-training to some degree.
Yeah.
There could be, you could...
That's the fancy term for not training hard enough.
It could be not hard enough, but it could be not enough
volume,
enough volume. You could be using movements with pretty poor stimulus to fatigue ratios or something like this. Or, more likely in bodybuilding circles, lying to yourself or your coach.
Saying you are training when you're not.
That, or the opposite,
that
I've had with clients in the past. Joe, I feel great.
Yeah.
10 out of 10 on the biofeedback.
Yeah. Do you know what? That's something I do struggle with. Because I'm like, you're getting week 6 into a program here, you should be fucked. Yeah. And you're telling me you've got no recovery issues. Okay.
Yeah, it's growth-minded individuals, what bodybuilders are like, Tell their coach they feel incredible and they feel terrible.
One question I wanted to ask you. What are you a preferred fan of? D-volume or deloading?
I think the terminology is confusing. So,
right. Okay, so simplify the process. So, what are you a fan of? Are you a fan of going into the gym on a week off and going to 50% of load or 50% of volume, or just taking a whole week off itself?
So, you finish your accumulation block of training, you're going to deload. I like to use the word deload as a catch-all phrase. Yeah. I think devolume is a term that's been sort of
I don't know the term devolume either. I think it's stupid.
I don't really know what it means, but I think people use it that are emotionally connected to training to failure, so they give themselves confirmation bias to still train to failure in their deload weeks by just reducing their volume, which isn't sufficient. You've got a load of neural drive that you're trying to correct. You can't be going in there and literally taking your autonomic nervous system to the point of ultimate sympathetic drive with a set to failure, even if you reduce volume. It's just nonsense, to be honest. So the way that I would prefer to deload a client, and the way that's certainly going to be best on paper, is that you reduce all of your inputs over the course of the week, but you can do it in a stepwise fashion. So just to give a brief example, you could reduce your volume and your proximity to failure, but just by virtue of reducing your volume, you're going to reduce your proximity to failure. And by volume, I'm not just talking about sets here, also reps, like volume load. Like, for example, if you went in the gym and...
So you've got a rep range of 6 or 12, you'd more aiming towards...
Well, let's say you'd done like 12, 10, 8 the week before, you would, or 12, 10, 8, 6, maybe you'd come in and only do 2 sets, and you would do 6 and 5.
Yeah.
So you've literally half the sets and half the
the
reps.
reps,
But
yeah.
the load's the same, so you're still getting exposure to high lows for maybe the first half of the week. The second half of the week, you could follow that trend, but you could also pull the load down to 50%.
Yeah.
Taking a week off the gym is fine as well. You know, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Some people hate going into the gym and training in the way that we just described. So, you know, there's some emotional impact to account for. But neurologically, from like a skill acquisition point of view, that's not going to be the best thing. You take a full week off the gym and you've got to like get that almost practicing of the moves. You imagine you play the guitar.
Once you take a whole week off,
you take a week off, come back and you're like, oh, this feels a bit funky.
Refamiliarise yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much wraps up this this part of the video, to be fair. Obviously Joe, fucking best mind in the game. Like, the amount of people that will say that. You know, he's humble, you know, that's what I like about him. You know, I base a lot of my coaching off of his coaching, and it's a true sign of a quality coach that I'm able to take so much without you having to really sit down with me and explain anything, because I've never really gone to you with a direct question, have I?
I think you've made a good point. Sorry to make it even longer than it already is. A good point for coaches is to make sure that when you make adjustments and things on a check-in, you explain the rationale behind things. Because
obviously you're a client yourself, you know that's predominantly how I coach as well.
Yeah, so like 99% of my clients are coaches. Yeah. So if I see, you know, like we went through this fluid retention thing, I didn't just say, right bro, just do this. I said, here's what I think's happening, here's the reason why. So let's try this, and this might occur if this happens, you know. And you go through the process, and then when you have a client in a similar situation, you know the ins and outs. Yeah. And over years of coaching, your education levels up just by virtue of being a client.
Just by being a secondary sort of collector of that data. Yeah, so it's good. Happy days, man. I can say right now, obviously, I'm in a far better position as a coach and a bodybuilder for the partnership that we've started back in September 2020 now. It's fucking nearly 2 years, bro.
It's flown, isn't it?
I know, it's crazy, man. So hopefully we can top off with a couple of good results, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Definitely, bro. Definitely.
Wicked, man. I appreciate your time. All good. Pleasure, man.
Big man.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. No worries, bro.
Peace out, big man.
Cheers.
See you boys later.
That is another day wrapped up. Joe's happy, and if Joe's happy, I'm happy. I feel like we're in a good spot, but none of this matters if I do not finish the job. So that is the task at hand. Finish the job. We have got, probably like Joe said, maybe 3 more weeks of genuinely suffering and dieting, so not long. And yeah, obviously the plan is to roll into that first show in 3.5 weeks' time. No peaking. Then obviously work the magic for the British finals, and whatever happens, happens. One thing that is for sure, you can bet your bottom dollar that I will be turning up on both show days, absolutely 100% in the knowledge that I've done everything that I can within my power with Joe, probably over the last 18 months, to bring what we can. So yeah, to everyone out there, one thing I want to say, one thing I want to stress is that your shows are not won and lost in the 16 weeks leading up to the show. It's always about having a productive off season. The position I'm in is contributed heavily to the fact that we've been working diligently and tirelessly from September 2020, which is nearly 2 years away, 2 years ago, right? So always remember, man, put the groundwork in. Every house is built on solid foundations. If it's built on fucking paper mache, it's gonna crumble, all right? So always remember that. But for now, we are going to head off home. This has been another episode of Live and Laugh. I think it's 13, maybe 12. I've genuinely lost count at this point. But I have been your boy, Stephen Physique. There we go, little bicep, there you go. And like always, if you haven't subscribed, then you're a twat. Press subscribe, it's going to be here somewhere. Ding. Like the video, comment on what you want to see. We've got Ed lined up for 5 more episodes, so I reckon we're probably going to reach maybe. What do you reckon? Do you reckon we can reach 20?
I don't even know what we're actually on at the moment.
I think we're probably going to reach about 17.
Yeah.
17 or 18, which I think is a solid fucking series. Yeah. That's a solid series. So, yeah, like I said, content's coming. A few announcements along the way as well, but I'm going to keep them close to my chest. And yeah, catch you in the next one, guys. Peace out.